Welcome everyone to the webinar for the April installment of our new features update. We'll give a couple more minutes for people to join in and then we'll get started. Will be recorded and all attendees will be sent an email with the link to the session as well as the slides from today's session as well. At any point, if you've got any questions, feel free to add it to the Q&A window that you have on your panel. And I've got a few colleagues joined into this session as well that will be able to help with those questions as we go through. So my name is Anthony Fernandez. I'm one of the product managers in the Simple Fund 360 team. Jeevan's on leave this week, so you have me doing the BGL update. And as usual, we've got Aaron Dunn, who's the CEO and co-founder of Smarter SMSF, to give us an SMSF update as well. Welcome, Aaron. And what do you want to give a quick heads up of what you'll be covering as of today?
Yeah, so thank you, Anthony. Hopefully you do a great session and you might permanently replace Jeevan. What do you think? So yeah, so we've got a couple of interesting things that we've seen both on a policy front, and we'll touch on with the NALI rules, and most importantly, the ATO has released some important information about market valuations. So we'll touch on some of that communication from the ATO and what practitioners need to be aware of, and then we'll finish off with a few things that we've been working on within Smarter SMSF as well.
Sounds good, sounds good. And of course, if you have any questions, as I said, do put it into the Q&A window. Aaron and I will be able to answer those at the end if they're addressed directly to either of us. Okay, so as part of the Simple Fund, Simple Invest update, what I'm going to be covering is things we released as part of the 14th of March update. Now, majority of that update was spent on effectively giving some TLC to our underlying platform itself. So we actually upgraded the version of Java to the most recent version of it. And along with it, we had to update certain other libraries and services that integrate with the Simple Fund 360. So what that means for you guys is, in terms of security, yep, any vulnerabilities have been patched up. Performance-wise, hopefully you've seen a slightly more improved performance as well. But that's not all we spent our time on. We did get some features out the door, which I'll cover shortly. And just so that you are aware, the next update is scheduled in for tomorrow. So stay tuned for that as well. Okay, so first cab off the rank. So as Aaron said, the ATO is sort of looking closely into valuations, which he will go into more detail in his session. But we did add a new valuer to the list of valuers that we do support. And the one that we added is True Market. So they do both current and retrospective valuations for residential, commercial, industrial, and rural properties. They also do rental appraisals as well. Let me jump into Simple Fund. So in Simple Fund, under the investment tab, if you go into or investment menu, if you go into the property dashboard tab, you'll see this external service providers button. And under the valuation providers, you'll see the list of all the valuation providers we've currently sort of signed up with. And you'll see True Market at the bottom there. Clicking onto the connect button takes you into their website where you can complete the purchase, and that valuation report will be sent through to you. So if you've not settled in on one of these valuers, or you don't have a valuer that you sort of frequently go to, have a look at the offerings here and yeah, see what best suits your needs. Okay, the next one is to do with digital signing and specifically Fuse Sign. So this is, so if you are using any other digital signing provider, this doesn't affect you directly at the moment, but any Fuse Sign users where you're using one email address across multiple signatories. So this is where this change comes in. Let me, again, I think it'll be better if I just demo it. So in the report screen, let me pick up a report for digital signing. So let's assume that trustee declaration. So what you'll notice here is I've got the same email address effectively for both signatories, but of course they've got unique phone numbers. The change that FuseSign has requested is the SMS authentication code that gets sent out to those mobile numbers be sent from the FuseSign SMS service. So if you don't have the scenario and you haven't set it in the when you sign up or when you set who the digital signing provider is, by default, we send the SMS from the BGL service. But where you've got a scenario where they're using the same email address, FuseSign requires that that SMS gets sent using their SMS service. So all that's been automated for you. So we will identify if it's a FuseSign provider and it's the same email address, then we will have that toggle switched on for you, which will effectively allow you to send through those documents to be digitally signed. So all that's been automated. There's nothing that you really need to do. But if you notice why we have, one toggle switched off and the other switched on, that is the reason why. Just a minor improvement that we've done to the deduction notice as well. We made it slightly smarter. Let me jump back into the report screen. So just with the deduction notice letter, I'm going to say that we're varying a prior notice. So previously, this is what the report would have looked like prior to this sort of little modification that we did. So by default, we printed this for you. So whether or not it was a variation to a prior notice, we didn't really, let's say, cater for it. So only if it was a variation that you now see that second half of the report being printed out. If it's just a notice to inform the trustees of the deduction you intend on claiming, you just have the first half of the report being printed out for you. So just a little minor modification that we did to the deduction notice letter so that you are aware of. The next one is to do with the audit management screen, which Jeevan would have shown you as part of the last webinar for those of you who attended it. We've done, again, a few modifications. One of the big ones that we did do was enabling triggers from that audit management screen. This comes in handy for those specifically sort of using both the workflow job screen as well as the audit management screen. So if you're using both of those screens in conjunction, this is where it can come in handy. For those of you that haven't seen the workflow jobs, effectively, it's where you can create a particular job and sort of tasks underneath it. Let me just filter through to this particular fund. So I've got a job here for the preparation of the 23 accounts for this SMSF. Clicking into it, it's got a whole heap of tasks to complete. So this is just to show you how we can automate the whole audit completion process. So as you can see, we've got tasks here to be completed. What I'm going to do is, let's go into the audit management screen, which is under compliance audit management. So when you do create entries, we automatically create that audit record for you. I'm just going to quickly go mark it as complete so that I can just demo how these triggers work. And I'm going to jump back in to the workflow jobs and have a look at the tasks. So as you can see, it's automatically marked that audit as completed. And it's something that I guess we're trying to automate with a lot of the workflow stuff from each of those screens. So for example, when you lodge the annual return, again, it'll come complete this task for you because it's got triggers in there that would automate those, automate that workflow for you. Same with the work papers as well, with the preparation and the reviewing of it. So yeah, just one of the minor modifications that we did was have the audit management screen speak to the workflow job screen as well. We've done a few changes to the work paper screen, as I previously mentioned. The first one is just to do with the last refresh date. A lot of these sort of improvements that we are doing have come through from the feedback that we do receive. So at any point, if you see any minor sort of changes you'd want to see that makes your life easier in Simple Fund 360 or Simple Invest, just use that provide feedback on the top right-hand side. Everyone in the product team do see that feedback that comes through and helps us with sort of getting these features through to you as well. Okay, so work papers is under reports, and you have the work paper tab up there. Okay, so the first one was to do with the last refresh date. So now when you hover over the last refresh date, what you'll notice is it'll tell you when the work papers were created, as well as when it was last refreshed. Now that is literally when this button here was last pressed. So that's the last refresh date and time, which gets updated accordingly. The next one was to do with updating the file name. So if we were to click into one of these work papers and let's say attach a document, so this is regardless to whether you upload it from your computer or from the document screen where you have previously attached files. If I click on attach, what you'll notice now is you can actually change the name of the file before you sort of put it into the work papers. So you don't have to worry about changing the file name prior to uploading it. You can do it post-upload as well. The next one is the ability for admin users to modify notes. So towards the bottom part of the work paper, you can add notes. So any user can add notes into this work paper. However, anyone with admin rights can now edit and effectively overwrite whatever notes that were made. So you need to have admin access to do that. If not, the user that entered those notes are the only ones who can effectively edit it. And the final one with work papers is the transaction view, the ability to sort it. So let's go into the BHP record, and again, Jeevan would have shown you this last webinar. You now have the transactions that shows you don't actually have to go up here or pull up a trial balance to have a look at each of the transactions or a general ledger rather. The improvement that we did is the ability to sort on any of these column headings. So again, you can sort on ascending or descending order for any of those transactions within the transaction tab. So that's work papers. And just for those Simple Invest 360 clients, what we've also done is added a training trust for you. So all those who use Simple Fund are already aware of this, but let me quickly jump into the Insights dashboard. So the training trust does not form part of your license or your subscription. It's effectively an entity that you could play around with so that you're not doing what ifs on an active client entity. Yeah, effectively, it's a free sort of entity that you could do whatever you please on. So that was added as part of last sprint for all those Simple Invest clients. That's effectively stuff that we introduced as part of the last release. As I said, a lot of the time was really focused on upgrading the platform itself. During last month, Jeevan and the guys did do a round of masterclasses around the country. If you were unable to attend one of those masterclasses in person, the same guys are running a virtual session as well on the 16th of April. If you're keen on signing in or registering for that, please go onto our website, which will give you the link to register for that online masterclass. And yeah, attend if you didn't do so, the one in person. This was again coming through on our feedback quite a bit in the last month. So something that we're adding as part of Smart Reports, just so that you're aware, as of tomorrow's release, is the trial balance. So the trial balance will be included as part of the Smart Reports, let's say, report list, as you can see there. And yeah, so stay tuned for that tomorrow. Okay, so that's the BGL update. I'm gonna hand over to Aaron to go through his session. Aaron, just let me know if you've got access to the slides.
I do. Just making sure I can see the controls here. Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Yep. Very good. All right. Well, welcome everyone to this second part where I'm going to take you through a few things that have been happening in the SMSF space over the past month or so. And there are two key areas, and one from a regulatory perspective here, as I touched on at the very beginning. And Anthony was talking about this through obviously the release of additional providers with the ability to get valuations undertaken. And this is a byproduct of the ATO spending more time looking at the various compliance risks within the regulatory data that they capture. And this one here is a targeted campaign where the ATO is writing to some 16,500 funds. And of those funds, this implicates about 1,000 auditors in respect to the CIS requirements of complying with our market valuation operating standard in CIS Regulation 8.02b. Now, some of you may recall in 2019 when the ATO wrote to a number of trustees, about 17,500 funds that had heavy asset concentration within property with leverage in excess of around 90% asset concentration with the use of leverage. And that was off the back of the Council of Financial Regulators report. And it was a concern specifically with the diversification requirement within CIS Regulation 4.09. So this is in a very similar vein where we are seeing the ATO look to address what they see as a high risk category area. And this area of risk is where they are seeing the same market valuation within the regulatory information of the annual return for 3 years or more. Okay, so arguably this might sit within those that have much higher asset concentration in certain assets or single assets. But the fact that we might have a property, we might have units in an unlisted trust, maybe a private company, all of these areas the ATO have flagged as high risk areas and will request a please explain and an understanding of the need to satisfy the requirement of CIS Reg 8.02b. So be aware of it. And in this instance, on the auditor side of things, then they are flagging this with auditors because quite clearly they have some potential concerns. And I use the word potential here because there may be a process that the market valuation remains the same for that period. But the concern that's being flagged on the auditor side is that there has been no movement in the value of those assets over that period of time, but B, no auditor contravention has been issued within what the ATO refers to as this high risk population and the potential around the breach of 8.02b, as I said, with our market valuation obligation. So the ATO is spending more time now using the data that they have and more data than they've ever had before to help identify and then deal with these different high risk areas. And you might ask, well, why is this important? Because you're going to have situations where your clients are maybe kicking back on this. Well, why do I need to get a valuation done again this year? I got one last year. I only got one done 2 years ago. Well, the reason why this exists is naturally because we have a range of areas that an individual's total superannuation balance, which is dictated by the assets that are made up in the fund, influence when we think about total superannuation balance and how that influences not only the ability to make contributions, but even things such as disregarded small fund assets. And then, of course, we've got items such as our transfer balance cap, which impacts the level of retirement phase exemption that an individual will get as well. So I have put on there the recently published ATO guidance. You may have seen this come through the media and within financial services as well, but be acutely aware that this is an area that the ATO is looking at. Similarly, it's a bit of a watershed moment, similar to what we saw with our LRBAs only 3 or 4 years ago, and then what we needed to do to really step up our investment strategy requirements and what we need to satisfy from a risk perspective where we did have higher levels of asset concentration. So again, it's not to say that we won't have circumstances where assets may not change from year to year, but we need to be able to justify the basis for any change, noting that auditors here will step up in terms of what they will expect in respect to a fund each and every year to manage their own risk in the audit that will be conducted. And the other area here is around our non-arm's length income rules. And this is something that has been going on for a long period of time. And I have probably spoken about this on this show as well. What I wanted to let you know finally is that this bill has now been approved by the Senate and is waiting for royal assent to be received. So what that means is that from the 1st of July 2024, this will become effective because it applies in the quarter following the period in which royal assent is received. But note, it actually goes back to the 2018-19 year. So this is where we have non-commercial arrangements that effectively inflate the net income of the fund. So we have expenses that have been incurred or not incurred that inflate the income. And we have seen, obviously, the ATO provide us some relief in respect to general expenses in the fund. So it's the accounting fees where you might be doing the accounting work in respect to your own fund, using your simple fund software, using your tax agent license and so forth. And that relief effectively was around from the 18-19 year through to the 30th of June 2023. So don't confuse the dates here. The laws will become effective from 1 July 2024, but go back to 2018-19, but we have relief for the general expenses up until 30 June 2023. In a nutshell, you need to get your own affairs potentially, and that with related clients and staff with policies and the like, in order in this current year, because it will impact this year. The ATO relief has ceased, but these rules do not provide relief in respect to specific assets. And there is, in our view, some very significant issues in respect to the specific asset issues. And we have recently just spoken about this at length at our SMSF Day events, and we will continue to do that through our education, including through our course content. These rules, note, only apply to self-managed funds and small APRA funds. We won't really see it in the small APRA fund space, but doesn't apply to APRA-regulated funds. And where we have seen the ATO, I guess, issue their controversial views on this through Law Companion Ruling 2021/2, we will now see the ATO look to update this ruling based upon this 2 times multiple that now deals with the general expenses. So if we, in very simple terms, we have a fee that should have been charged on an arm's length basis of, say, $5,000, it was offered in essence as a free service to do the accounts of the SMSF, then the 2 times multiple will apply to the difference between what was charged and what should have been charged. So $10,000 would be the non-arm's length expense, and then the other income in respect to the fund for that year would be taxed at the concessional rate. So again, you can find out a little bit more about this through some of our own education, or obviously you can track a lot of this online. So it is really important that you are spending time reviewing the general expenses issue to ensure that these arrangements are being dealt with either A, on arm's length, or B, you have a policy within the practice that deals with this issue, or C, those are being undertaken wearing your trustee hat as opposed to wearing the individual capacity hat where we're relying upon the definition of Section 17B, where a trustee in essence is allowed to be remunerated in certain circumstances. So there's a lot in that. I don't have a lot of time to obviously talk about today. We spoke about this for the best part of 90 minutes at our SMSF days recently. There's a lot to unpack, but I do note now that this is expected to take effect, as I said, from the 1st of July 2024, as it's now passed both houses and simply waiting upon royal assent to be received. The other thing, just before I come back to some of the questions here, one of the things that we are doing is that we have recently just rolled out what we call our Smarter Legal Review. So where you are doing deed upgrades, changes to trustees, or you're looking at things like binding death benefit nominations, we now have, in conjunction with Hill Legal, the ability to have that legal oversight and letter of comfort, in essence, to say that it has had that legal review undertaken in respect to the specific order. In addition, we do commonly see breaks in the document chain, so we have also rolled out a deed of rectification and or ratification to fix those particular issues. So whether it's a typographical error, such as a naming issue, missing information, or it's undated, or there's a process error where maybe there's an employer sponsor or participating employer that hasn't been added into that process. And again, you've got that chain, that linkage to the chain that we can now fix through that process as well. We do have 4 levels to this legal review available, but in addition, those that order documents on the platform can continue to order those as they may have done without legal review as well. So the decision is yours. This is an additional service that we've added to that process. Now, we are running a webinar in respect to this on Tuesday, the 9th of April, if you want to join. And we also now have our legal review page up on our website if you'd like to find out a little bit more about the different levels of service that you can see on here as well. So this just provides a little bit of information about the different levels of review and the cost around those reviews. We do in our document that you can download from the website, has a bit more around the scope of services and some of the prerequisites and exclusions and so forth. But broadly speaking, it gives you an understanding of how this service is provided and then what you ultimately get from that process as well. And then the other thing here, and we did touch on this last time, is we do now have both courses available via not only Smarter SMSF, but I believe they've been added onto the BGL Learning channel as well. So our Foundations course, 6 modules, 10 hours. You can see there what we call our starter. One of the things that we have done is that we now also have built in some AI to assist students in the learning. Our Essentials course, again, 7 modules, 18 accredited hours, again, with some smarter AI. But most importantly, any student that actually completes either of these 2 courses, we have collaborated with the SMSF Association, where you will receive a complimentary period of membership. So with our Foundations course, it's the affiliate membership. With the Essentials course, it's the associate membership. That complimentary period basically takes you through to the 31st of March of that following year. And I just wanted to quickly show you, and you can see the site, the URL there on BGL about our SMSF courses. But I just wanted to give you a bit of a sneak peek with the video here on our own platform, what we've done with the Essentials course, where you can go into the specific module and you can now see the ability to ask the AI about the specific issue. So not only is there a blend of learning about how things work and whether you're a visual or a written person to access the resources, but you just want to start to learn a little bit more, just help embed that knowledge, where you can now ask these questions of the AI, and the AI will use all the reference material that we have within that module to then actually start to explain and help understand that information for you as well. So we see that as a pretty big step, not only in our education, but we're also rolling this out in our documents as well. So we've built this into our SMSF deed. We'll be building in order form. We'll be building it into our pension documents and so forth as well. And we'll cover that in our upcoming Smarter SMSF update too. So yeah, so the final one there obviously is if you want to get started, of course, you can jump in within Simple Fund 360, go to Order Documents under the Connection area, and you can get yourself underway, and you can naturally have a look at our website to get access to our different subscriptions that we have too. So Anthony, I think I'm going to hand back to you there to take on any questions that we might have as well.
Cool. Thanks, Aaron. Let's see. Thank you everyone for attending. We'll finish off here. The recordings will be sent through to you for those of you who want to send it through to the rest of anyone else in your organization. Actually, we've got a last-minute question. I feel that auditors are being held accountable for valuations when this is not necessarily an area that is their expertise. If we have a market value that the trustee provides, on what basis are we disputing it?
Yeah, so yes, auditors probably do feel a little bit in the gun with this but it is a compliance part. It's a Part B aspect of the audit. The auditor is not being asked here to determine whether it's correct or not. What they're being asked to do is has the trustee undertaken reasonable grounds around the valuation, and is it being supported by objective and supportable data? So it's going to the framework. So are auditors looking at it within the framework that they're required to audit the fund? So there is going to be significant pressure on market valuations if we think about the Division 296 proposed rules that are coming, where a total superannuation balance is going to influence how much tax an individual is going to have, which will include unrealized gains. So I'm not, I can certainly understand the pressure that auditors are going to be expected to deal with, but if there are concerns, the natural relief is to, in essence, raise that concern, issue a contravention, and then let the ATO determine with the trustee whether there is an issue or not an issue. And this is why documentation becomes key. You can't just jump on a different site and go, well, this is the number, let's assume that and move on, or let's just ignore it for this year. It is all about saying, how have we come up to this decision? How have we documented this against comparable sales? And what's the justification for us to land on this for the purposes of producing the financial statements for the year, for the purposes of starting the pensions, because there are both TSB and transfer balance cap considerations that need to be considered on an ongoing basis.
Sounds good. Thanks, Aaron. Cool. Those are all the questions we have for today. So we'll finish off here. Thanks a lot again, Aaron, for signing in.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And yeah, we'll catch everyone next month.